Welcome back, everybody. It is Crabcakes and Baseball. We are finally back yet again, and it is the 2025 rankings is going to be the first thing up. We've had a busy summer. We've got a lot to talk about, but we want to talk about our updated class of 2025 rankings. That's what we're going to be doing today, and let's get it on. How is everybody doing? I am Jerry Shank, and it is Crabcakes and Baseball. With me, as always, is our Maryland Delaware Scouting Director, Jamie Nail Jr. Sir, how we doing?
Another day in paradise, Jerry.
There we go. So this is a recording. Obviously, I think this is going to be the first one you watch, but this is actually the last one we recorded. So you're going to see the same clothes, and you're going to see a bizarro world. You're going to be so confused at the beginning of each opener because we've really just confused ourselves. We have no clue what day it is, where we're at. We're just like, hey, let's just do some podcasts here because we got a lot of catching up to do. We've had the full summer, so you're going to be getting a lot of podcasts here coming up in the near future over the course of the next week. And after Labor Day, you're going to be getting today's, which is solely on the 2025 rankings update because there's a ton to talk about with there. But you're also going to get a future games wrap up, a senior future games wrap up, a junior future games wrap up, an East Coast Super Sophomore games wrap up, and a Mid Atlantic Pro Case wrap up. And again, like we are totally confused. I can't remember what's going on, what day it is. So it's going to be a lot of fun watching those intros again and being like, man, I'm an idiot. But we already knew that. So that's really nothing new. All right, let's get into today's episode because, again, we got a lot to talk about, a lot of fun, and it's the 2025 class rankings. We expanded from 200 to the top 225 players across the old line state and the first state, Maryland and Delaware. 21 risers inside the top 50, 10 uncommitted players inside the top 50, and 31 total inside the top 100. So that's 10 uncommitted in the top 50 and a 31 uncommitted players inside of our top 100. Jamie, before we go into our nationally ranked players, which was a good showing, I do want to hand it off to you real quick. You've put your heart and soul into this, you and Cole. I help out where I can, but you guys really do the grunt work when it comes to this. Just talk a little bit about it because it's a big process, and this was a big move because it was a big summer.
Yeah. This class, and when you do rankings, like it's when you do rankings, a lot of it is top heavy, right? And you and I talk about that a lot, and we talk about it with a lot of college coaches in the area and a lot of high school coaches, summer coaches, stuff like that. It's very top heavy. This class in particular is very deep. You see your top heavy studs, when you're looking at 1 through 20 or 1 through 30, even the top 50, you can move some guys around, and there's not many arguments this way or the other. This class is extremely deep, and when you get past 50, you see a bunch of guys that say, hey, this can be a top 50 guy, and in most regards absolutely can. This is a class that we've seen obviously a very long time. These are your rising seniors. We've seen a bunch on them, and you still see some new faces jump into the rankings. We have a new face that jumps into the top 50. We see a bunch of risers that jump 30, 40 spots because we've seen a bunch of them this summer. So rankings, there's a lot to go into it. You're looking at metrics, you're looking at current ability, you're looking at future ability, you're looking at, what they bring to the game day in and day out. And you look at a lot of things that are intangibles that not a lot of people may see when you see a guy 1 or 2 times play, and then you have your opinion on them. We've seen them multiple times. We've seen them, 5, 10, 15 different times, and we've seen them grow, and you see the projection. So there's a lot to go into rankings, Jerry. I know you have your own little spiel on rankings. We're not saying that we're perfect in any way, but we do them to the best of our ability and what we see out of the players across the 2 states.
Yeah, I mean, if you want to really see like just part of my opinion on rankings, go to my Twitter page. It's pinned right there in the front. But it, rankings has totally evolved as it always does. It continues to evolve. Players continues to evolve. And in all honesty and full transparency, I wish we could do it differently by not just ranking them 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I think the true way, and I listen to a lot of other podcasts, especially. I really am interested in how every sport works within their departments, within the GM, within the organization, and kind of seeing how they go. And before I fall off on a complete tangent, one that I really like. They talk about the draft, and they're really more so talking about tiers. You tier the players together. You've got your tier one group, you've got your tier two, and your tier three. Because really, at the end of the day, like, yes, we can try to separate these guys as well as we can, and we really take a ton of pride in doing this because we have looked and we are looking and we are doing our research and we're seeing the value, we're creating the value based on our system on how these players, how we feel they're going to pan out. But at the end of the day, like if you could, it would be, and it honestly probably be much easier if you just were able to tear off some of these guys because some guys are so good. You'd love to have any of them. You would love to be able to have them if that opportunity comes in. But we do it in a ranking scale, and I think it's extremely accurate. I think we take a lot of pride in this, and it's something again. We're not just throwing stuff up against the wall and seeing what sticks. We do a ton of research. We watch a lot of games, and really the biggest thing for me that I like the most is we get to watch guys in the spring, and that's really what's going to tell that really for me that tells me a lot about a player. It tells me almost more about a player during the spring than it does during the summer watching them. Because during the summer, a lot of colleges, a lot of coaches are going to be there. During the spring, you don't know if they're going to always be there. And so I want to see that. I want to see what's going to happen when nobody's around. What's going to happen when you're in college and you're in your second year and you're in a midweek game? Are you going to put that same sort of intensity? What if you're a drafted kid and you're playing in Podunk, Timbuktu, playing in a game, a ball game in the middle of nowhere, and nobody's watching. Like, how are you going to carry yourself and compete? So, like, that's what I really like about that. And now I'm totally have no clue what I'm talking about anymore. But we're back into the rankings because I think it correlates to the rankings because we're trying to do all that sort of research on these guys and project where they're going to be and where they're going to what they're going to become. And Jamie has done an outstanding job doing that, looking at all these players, analyzing and trying to figure out, where to go. And we had long conversations with this class, especially between myself, between you, between Cole, between Shooter, um, between um, between DJ. So like all within the organization who have got to lay eyes on these players to really put the best and most accurate rankings in there together that we can do. So, all right, now that I have no clue what we're talking about anymore, let's get into our nationally ranked players in the top 500. It's 9 total. So let's take a quick look at there. Make sure I still know how to do this. Definitely don't. Wrong one. There we go. Let's get in there. So this is our top 10, the Maryland, Delaware top 10. Now, 9 of those top 10 players are in our national top 500. So at the number 1 spot, you see Aiden West. At number 2, Joe Nottingham. Number 3 is Austin Weiss. Number 4 is Will Ryan. Number 5, Jordan Rogolski. Number 6 is Bud Coombs. Number 7, Sam Rosand. Number 8 is Charlie Buckles, a big riser that we will talk about in a minute. Number 9, Nathan Wines. And number 10, Ty Connis. So there's your top 10. 9 of those top 10 players are in our national ranked in the top 500. Aiden West at 106. Nottingham is at 157. Austin Weiss is at 164. Will Rhines at 211. Rogolski is at 249. Bud Coombs is at 252. Rosand is at 390. Charlie Buckles is at 453. And last but not least, Nathan Wines is in our top 500 at number 498. So, Really, really interesting there. I really enjoyed doing this. You definitely can tell when we're starting to get to that draft class because now these 25s are really taking the reins and we're really starting to dissect talking to as many people. I just talked about our staff that we're talking about. Jamie, I know you're on the phone with pro scouts a lot, talking with them, getting their ideas, going back and forth just as much as when they are talking to you, wanting your opinion about it. But before we go into these individual players, and I know we've already done it one more time, we did it a little bit before, but really, when we're looking at these in these rankings, just kind of go over the amount of conversations that you're having.
Yeah, it's definitely not something where where I sit down one night and I say, all right, let's put this top 225 list together, and I just go through a Google sheet and I start funneling guys in and moving guys around. That's not how it works. I have conversations with not only college coaches but high school coaches, summer coaches, pro guys. I have a at length conversation with you and Shooter Hunt, and we talk about a lot of these guys at length about the projection and the current ability and all of that stuff that entails what a player is and what a player is all about. And there's in-depth conversations that we have, that I have with Cole Ledger and stuff like that, that it's not a thing where we just sit down one night and we knock it all out. This is a long, extensive process that we do research on. We look at statistics, we look at metrics, we look at all of it, and we look at what the player does, between the lines. There's a lot of things that people will look at us and say, hey, well, this guy has a 95 exit velo compared to this guy has an 89 exit velo, and I'm like, there's a lot more that entails rankings than metrics, and we try to talk about that at length. Because there is a lot more. There's a lot more when you talk about projection and current ability and stuff like that. So these rankings, they do not come lightly to us. We do them, for a length, for a period of time, and they are extensive. So we take pride in it, just like you said, and we believe we create these lists to the best of our ability.
No, absolutely. And, it's funny too, because with everybody that we're talking to, you could almost have, you talk to 10 people, you might have 10 different top tens or top fives, um, there's definitely some continuity in some areas, but then it can get a little skewed across. Like talking with Shooter, he's like, well, hey, I like this guy better than this. I'm like, well, we get to see him a little bit more. And then he's like, oh, well, that makes total sense. And then the other way around, too. He's like, hey, I just saw him recently. I really like the trajectory right now. It looks like things are cleaning up. And we're like, oh, okay. Well, that's going in with what we've seen. We've seen it there. We were waiting for this to happen. Looks like now it's happening. So that's just an inside look at, like, I just want to reiterate, we take a ton of pride in this. We really like doing it. Now, obviously, at the end of the day, we're all idiots, but that's everybody in the world. But we're trying to do this and make it and put a lot of effort into it. So I just wanted to give you all a little bit more feedback into what all we're going when we're trying to do this. Because, like I said, this is our baby. This is what we're taking a lot of pride in, and so we don't just throw this up there and take it lightly. So
And another thing, Jerry, I don't mean to cut you off,
no,
but
do it.
talking about this list in particular, you're looking at Maryland and Delaware, and you're seeing two relatively small states, and you're seeing 9 guys in the top 500. You're seeing 5 of those 9 in the top 250 across the country, and this is a loaded class. When you look at it across the country, this 25 class is loaded, and it's a lot of fun. There's top talented players across the country, and you're looking at Maryland and Delaware, and we have 9 inside the top 500, and like I said, 5 inside the top 250, and Bud Coombs right outside the 250 at 252. So you're looking at the talent and how incredibly talented this list is and this class is, and it's been fun to watch them over the years, and you're really starting to talk about the 25 draft and and the Super 60, and you're looking at all of this stuff, and Maryland's going to be well represented. So just wanted to put that little tidbit in there about how loaded this class is.
Oh, for sure, for sure. And there's probably some Maryland natives going to a DC school that might be in another states. rankings that don't get the B from here. So Maryland, there's still a lot of good baseball in this state, and it's really been showing, especially, and I think too, between this year and next year's class, this is where you're really going to see some of this class really shine. I think it's really two strong classes. Not saying anything more or less. You still got the verdict is still out on the 27s and 28s. Obviously, there's a lot of development to come, but what we've been seeing in the 25 and 26s classes, we really like what we're seeing. So yeah, definitely a really strong year across Maryland and Delaware. Now let's get into some of these players that we're going to talk about, especially within our top 10. Some guys who made some nice movement and moved up in the rankings. And the first one that we're going to talk about jumped up 4 spots to our number 2 spot, and that is Loyola Blakefield, right-handed pitcher. He's a Georgia commit, Joe Nottingham.
Yeah, future game alum here in Joe Nottingham. Obviously, we've been on him for a long time. I saw him extensively this spring, and he had a stellar summer. He really took that next step this summer. Big 6'5" righty, really getting his name into the 2025 draft talk. Low 90s fastball, got up to 94, 95 this summer. You continue to see the velo increase. The breaking ball continues to develop, and we really like that split. The splitter is really taking off. It's starting to look as a really good pitch and a really good secondary pitch that can become plus as the strike percentage continues to increase. That's the big thing on Nottingham is the amount of strikes that he throws and how well he can compete in the zone, because that fastball you're talking about a 92 to 95 range, it's there and it can blow by hitters. And then mixing in the split and mixing in the breaking ball and really cleaning those secondary pitches up, it's really going to play well off of the heater. So Joe Nottingham, huge summer. I know that all of our national guys were on him a lot. They saw him a bunch this summer. You really like the frame, you love the projection there, and you love the easiness in the delivery. So Joe Nottingham moves up to that number 2 spot in good regard.
Nah, for sure. I think it was like you said. He's had strong summers the past 2 years. Really, 2 years, and that's I'm not taking anything away from. I thought it was a really strong. It was a really good spring for him as well, like you were talking about. Really kind of a coming of age, really showing himself and establishing what he's going to become, and he's just continued to climb. And it's going to be a lot of fun, and it's going to be a really interesting spring this year, going through this fall into the spring to see how that continues to develop. Because the trajectory is moving in the right direction. And again, he's a funny one. I remember when we saw him at the random API Scout Day back in December of whatever it was 4 years ago now. That was one of your first events, one of your early events that you had been to. And this kid really stuck out to us, and watching him grow throughout these years, it's a lot of fun, to see that, especially for the youngster. So at the number 2 spot, that is Joe Nottingham, moving up from number 6 previously. Now, the next player we're going to talk about is another one that has moved up really well, and really things are really starting to click, move in the right direction for him. He is number 3 in our rankings, number 164 overall. That is left-handed pitcher and outfielder, Maryland commit Austin Weiss out of Georgetown Prep.
Yeah, I'm not sure if now Nottingham obviously moves up a bunch, but Austin Weiss, you want to talk about a helium guy that really took off this spring. The arm has always been there. It's a tough slot lefty. He usually sat 88, 90, 91, grabbed a 91, 92. He's now sitting pretty comfortably in the low to mid 90s, grabbing 95s at will pretty much at any time he throws. Had a good showing at the USA, or a part of Team USA this summer. Shooter Hunt had seen him a bunch of times this summer as well. Really like that fastball. Works it to both sides. Can really beat bats in the zone and out of the zone. Curveball is more of a slurvy pitch. Slurvy, if you want to call it slurvy. Mid 70s. Shows promise. Can get swing and miss in and out of the zone. It's a big swing and miss 2-strike pitch down in the dirt that he gets a ton of swings just like that one in that video. Ton of uncomfortable swings. Really like the upside there. This is another guy that once that strike percentage increases, you're going to continue to see that stock increase as well. If he can compete in the zone and miss bats in the zone and create and induce that weak contact, you're going to see the stock continue to increase. So it's another arm in this loaded 25 class of arms that sees a rise in the rankings up to number 3.
Yeah, and like you were saying at the beginning, it has been a big rise just in the past, 12 months, 18, 15, 16 months. Really seeing where it is. You always saw the just natural athleticism with Austin. I remember seeing it the first time I got to see the young man. Like, you see that athleticism, you see the twitch, the ability, and now it's really starting to come into fruition. And so you definitely like that. And one of the big things too they were talking about with his outing over at USA was just the uncomfortable swings that were there, and that's coming from righties too. And typically the right-handed hitters have easier at bats versus lefties, but just a lot of uncomfortable ABs. I think that the kind of the word is the like you were saying, the strike consistency, as that gets better, that's going to help that trajectory continue to move up. Because I think the second pitch, the breaking ball, it still has promise. It still has a chance to be a good pitch, but it's enough right now where you can kind of go with it until he really continues to develop it. But just really attacking hitters more and more, I think that's going to be big for him. So this will be a lot of fun to watch because there's a lot of electricity when you see this arm and you see this young man. So it's going to be a lot of fun to watch him develop over the fall, or even just watching him in the spring. Going to be really, really interesting. Now, another one who has really kind of jumped off the boards again, kind of hopping back into some interesting draft talk here, is our player who came in at number eight, or yeah, eight in our rankings, number 453 overall. He's now at Walt Whitman High School, FSU commit. That's Florida State. It's 2025 Charlie Buckles.
Yeah, Jerry, you and I have talked at length about Charlie over the years. You've seen him go through that growth spurt and really start to learn the body, and you can see it now. Have more confidence in the body and have more confidence in the swing and the body movements and the athleticism and the agility. He slides inside the top 10 for the first time at number 8. The frame is long, 6'6", 6'7". I think in the past years I've talked about him being my bodyguard when I go out to games, because he's that big and he's that strong, and the poolside power is there. We've talked to shooter that have seen him at multiple times this summer, and you see that power upside, and you love the power upside. That's a tool that you can really hang your hat on when you talk about Charlie Buckles. And the power continues to rise, the barrel awareness continues to increase. So there's a lot to like there. It's going to be fun to see the transition now to Whitman from Bullis, and see a lot better, in my opinion, a lot more consistent competition there in Moco, and seeing a lot of top tier arms throughout the spring. You're going to see him get, some more competitive ABs. So it's going to be a lot of fun to watch. It's going to be a fun fall to watch Charlie, a fun winter to watch, and then a big 25 campaign this spring coming up.
Yeah, I mean it's really interesting. We've talked about Charlie plenty of times, and you know, we've always called him a baby giraffe. He's still just catching up to his body, and he's not there yet. He's more like a middle school giraffe now. We're getting closer, but there's still so much more growth to come in with him. Like, it's an unfinished product, but really the tools have been there. They've been loud for us, but now it's really starting to go. And really, that power tool, like you talked about, that's really starting to be seen by a lot of other guys. Obviously, being at the Team USA workout, and then pro scouts, our guys alike. The power just continue to impress, and he's definitely an unfinished product. There's still more there, so it's a bit of a wild card just to keep an eye on. It's going to be a lot of fun to watch and see how he continues to develop and how he continues to become a better athlete and a better hitter, and can just continue to develop, because I think there's definitely more there. But now we want to see how that develops as we head with this fall, how this fall goes and how this spring goes. So he's going to be one to watch and one to be really, really intrigued by. Before we get into the uncommitted, just one quick question. And one guy I want to call out, and I think Jamie, you're going to agree with me too. I think a real interesting one. We brought up Bud Coombs earlier. Um, the two-way talent, two sport talent, excuse me. Like there's so much ceiling between both. I've seen it happen so many times coaching, recruiting a guy who ends up not, being done with one of those sports that they're so good at, and then they move to another one, and then they blow the doors off because they get that much better. It's going to be hard for Bud because he's just so good at both sports. Like, do you think there's ever going to be a time where we really get to see that true potential, or is it just going to be like? I mean, I wouldn't. I'd be shocked if he's not, being, getting considerable playing time both on the football team and on the baseball squad.
Yeah, obviously, I can't talk at length. I haven't had conversations with Coach Loxley out there
You
with
need
Maryland
to.
football, but yeah, I mean, Bud Coombs, he's a unicorn when you talk about talent. Two sport athletes, one of the top football players in the state, and obviously one of the top baseball players in the state. And like I said, I don't put unicorn lightly because that is how I view Bud Coombs. When I go out and watch him, compete on the diamond, it's watching a superstar in the making, and that's how Bud Coombs is. He attacks everything with the athleticism and the physicality of a football player. He's a high motor guy that never stops. You love the hit tool there, and it's a thing that you could only imagine how good he could become if he dropped football and he could focus on baseball 10 out of the 12 months. And it's crazy to think of that because of how good he is now, splitting his year pretty much 50-50 with football, baseball. So, I think it's going to come down to football at the next level once he gets to Maryland. And Big Ten football is obviously a lot different than playing football at DeMatha, and everybody knows that, and the toll that it takes on your body. But he is that good, and it's going to be fun to see, and we wish him the best at Maryland as a two-sport athlete. But it's also going to be a lot of fun to watch if he decides to drop football and focus on baseball with Maryland. And he can focus 100% of his time, 10, 11 out of the 12 months, and work on his craft and get better at baseball, which is crazy to think because he's that good now. So, the athleticism is there. I think he's going to succeed in both sports at Maryland, and we'll see how it all plays out. But it's going to be an exciting journey to watch as Bud Coombs takes that next step into the college level.
Nah, for sure, and I'm sure they're talking about it on the same end, on the football end. They're like, "Man, what happens if he's just with football all the time?" They're like, "Why don't
Right.
you punt the baseball thing? Come be our guy, be our dude." And he could probably, and you could probably have the same argument that he could do the same thing. But such a good athlete, be really fun because I remember me and you, we had conversations. We watched him not this past spring, but the year before in the spring, and we're like, we see a foundation there. We see some traits. We're not sold on it yet. There's still a lot of growth to go, and we weren't overly excited. And then, not this past summer, but the summer before, you saw some growth. Things start to move in the right direction. Same thing with the as you went into the fall, and then this spring, this past spring that we went to. I mean, I know talking, he was like, "This is a different kid. It's a different guy." And so watching that development, it's really, really fun to watch, really fun to see. And so you think, hey, there's still some more trajectory there as a player. So but yeah, that's just a few of the guys we wanted to talk about within our top 10. Like I said, it's a really strong class. And then obviously, just a quick note at the very top, Aiden West, he's in just outside the top 100. He's just continuing to get better and better. The NC State commit really, he's been a guy that we have been a fan of for a long time. I remember, back watching him when he was playing at our junior future games as a 13-year-old, and really, took off there, opened our eyes. We're like, holy cow, this kid's got some juice. And now watching him where he's at, the hit tool is still there, and he's just getting better defensively. The arm strength is getting there. Like everything's starting to come in. It has all the makings that it could be a special next 8 months for this young man.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, Aiden has been our number one player for a few updates now for as long as I can remember, and he's held that strong, and there's a reason behind that: the athleticism, the strength. He continues to get better in all facets. The run tool, the speed is there. There's plenty to like with Aiden, and the defensive actions have really increased. So it's a guy that's really coming into his body. He's really maturing. and the strength is really coming to the forefront. So you see him at that number one spot, and it's for good reason. And he continues to get better, and the summers continue to get better, and he's playing national competition during the summer now, and it's a lot of fun to watch. And you wish him the best because he's such a good kid as well. And like you said, we've seen him ever since he was a middle schooler. So it's a guy that I'm glad that you noted on and you touched on because it's a very special player there at the top of these rankings.
Oh yeah, for sure. Gonna be a lot of fun watching how these guys go. Like, Will Ryan starting just getting back. We hope his recovery continues to progress. I'm excited to see him for the spring. Rogolski, see how I mean, you could call it maybe a down summer, but the kid's still throwing 92, 94. But watching how that spring goes, like there's so much ceiling on that young man. I can't wait to watch, see how the fall goes and see how the spring goes. Rasan, he's the guy you want to give the ball to. He's the bulldog. He's going to go out there. He's going to chuck it. He's going to fill up the zone. I think that if there's anybody out there that, I mean, you could argue in there if there's one person that you would want to give the ball in one game right now, tomorrow, he might be the guy that I would pick because that guy's just going to fill it up and compete his tail off. And then Nate Wines as well. Be a lot of fun to see how this spring goes. To just because he's already been a big time arm, but really seeing him take that next step is kind of becoming in a larger role as he grew from last year's you know bigger role in there. But anyways, talked entirely too much. I wasted like 20 extra minutes because we just went off on a tangent. And by we, I mean me. Jamie always stays to schedule. He is good. I am bad. All right. Now, let's go with the 25 ranks again. Let's stick with uncommitted guys. There's two guys in particular that we want to highlight right now. Still uncommitted, have really had strong summers heading into this fall. Some guys to really keep an eye on. If you don't know already, you need to know. The first one we're going to talk about here at Severn is left-handed pitcher Caden Blank.
Yeah, Caden Blank. We've been on him for a while. He really stepped onto the scene this spring. He was just about he may have been the most dominating pitcher this spring across Maryland. He was legit. Pretty unhittable in the zone. He attacks hitters. He's both sides of the plate. Really like the arm action, the ability to spin for strikes as well. It's a wipeout slider. The frame is projectable. He's in the mid to upper 80s. You still see plenty of velo left in the tank, and there's some deception there as well. So Caden Blank, definitely one to circle. One of the top uncommitted guys left in this class. And you really like the athleticism on the bump. It's a pretty repeatable operation. So Caden Blank, if you don't know the name, you need to know the name. This is a guy that flew under the radar for a while, but he's not flying under the radar anymore. And this is a guy that a lot of college coaches need to throw their hat on for sure.
Yeah, definitely. A lot more there. A lot more in that tank. Definitely see it. And left-handed pitchers, you can never have enough. That's for sure. So why not stick with that theme? And let's go with another left-handed pitcher who really just jumped on the scene and for us, basically punched us in the face. We hadn't seen him in this capacity. We got to see him this summer, jumped out in front of us down at the 17U National Championship. But let's go to the DeMatha Catholic 2025 left-handed pitcher, first baseman Bryce Palms.
Yeah, Bryce Palms. Shout out Jordan Jones down in Virginia, our guy down there working with Jason Burton. He was on Palms pretty much this whole summer. Really like the athleticism on the bump. Fastball 85, 88, touch 89. We saw him down at the 17U National Championships, and Jordan shot me a text and said, "Hey, this Palms kid is legit. He's the real deal." And I really dove into it and did my research, and Palms is the real deal. He looks the part. He can spin for strikes. He's got a wipeout slider that induces swing and miss below the zone. The fastball obviously gets on hitters quick, works both sides of the plate, can miss bats in the zone. So you like the athleticism there. You like the strike percentage. And you like the projection there with a lot left in the tank. And then the hit tool as well. We saw the hit tool a lot this spring. Gap to gap power, stays on the ball really well. I think the hands are pretty quick. It's a whippy barrel with power to both gaps and alleys. So there's a lot to like on both sides of the ball. I think the ceiling may be with the arm, but the hit tool is there as well, and the projection is there. So a lot to like in Bryce Palms. That's another name that kind of flew under the radar until this point. but it's a guy that's definitely trending in the right direction.
Nah, for sure. I mean, how many, text messages or quick calls and be like, "Hey, what do you got on Bryce Palms?" That happened later in the summer for us. It was quite a bit. So really strong summer for him. Another one. Be excited to see how the fall goes and what the spring will entail. But really, really interesting talent there out of the 25 class. So, all right. Well, that's going to do it for today's episode of Crab Cakes and Baseball. I want to thank all of you for listening, for watching. If you do enjoy this, please head to our YouTube page. Just go see us on YouTube. Give us a like, subscribe to us, makes us feel good about ourselves. And really, that's what Jamie wants the most.
Yeah, absolutely.
But no, please do give us a like, give us a subscribe to us. We'll keep you updated on here. It's going to be a lot more episodes are going to be coming. We've got future games, JFG, the senior future games. We're going to be talking about that in the next episode. We're also going to be talking about our East Coast Super Sophomore games and the Mid Atlantic Pro Case. And that's going to be all kind of balled up within the next 10 days or so, because then we're going to talk about the 2026 rankings as well. So we've got a lot of stuff coming at you. Make sure you're following us on X, on IG, so you can see all of that, and make sure you're watching all the episodes. But again, thank all of y'all so much for watching. Jamie, any words of wisdom?
More rankings to come. That's what I got. We move our attention to the 26s and 27s. Move our attention to the scout days in the fall. All of our events this fall. There's a ton to like. There's a ton to look forward to. Looking forward to some fall weather as well. I'm done with the 95-degree weather, so hopefully we get some fall weather here shortly.
Yeah, it was miserable yesterday. Like, it was hotter at night for me than it was during the day. Walking out, and humidity's just like punches you in the face.
Yeah.
It's just miserable. I like that fall weather, but I'm also just a fat human being who just does not like heat to begin with. I just sweat thinking about it. So again, thank you guys, and we do have a lot of events coming up October 19th and 20th. It's a big weekend for us. We've got the senior games. We've got a Rising Stars identification in the fall, and then that's on Sunday. On Saturday, we've got a fall ID for freshmen, sophomores, and juniors. Please, if you have any questions about them, let us know. Check them out. Really interesting stuff. They're all going to be at Joe Cannon Stadium in Hanover, Maryland. So if there's any questions there, but three big events, a lot of scout days, and then our end of the year spectacular, November 2nd and 3rd. We got the Mid Atlantic State games, so check those out. But make sure you visit our site, Prep Baseball Report, or prepbaseball.com, /Maryland. That's prepbaseball.com/Maryland. Check out the site, check out everything that's on there. Ton of information coming up, and onward and upward, because we got rankings coming out after Labor Day. So for Jamie Nail, I am Jerry Shank. Thank you all again. It's Crab Cakes and Baseball, because that's what Prep Baseball Maryland does. We'll see you guys next time.